From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. More Filipinos opened basic deposits and e-money accounts this pandemic. But cybercrimes also surged as payment transactions shifted to digital. Mobile users weren't spared, with spam text messages offering dubious job opportunities with tempting salaries and promises of cash rewards, all in one click. Amid the digital revolution, strong systems and improved financial literacy are needed to secure users' data and prevent fraud. The vision of a cash-lite society in our C-suite vision. Bank frauds have surged this year, resulting in over 1 billion pesos in losses, mostly due to unauthorized transfers and withdrawals. The volume of cybercrimes this 2021 is also 3 times higher compared to 2019. So what's the problem? Let's now have an exchange with Bankers Association of the Philippines President and PNB CEO, Wick Veloso. Wick, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start off first with these SMS job scams. I've received many of them over the past week saying I can earn in a part-time or full-time job 800 to 10,000 pesos a day. And the National Privacy Commission has met up with the banks. Could there have been a breach or a leak from some of the bank's information systems?
So far, if you've what you've shared, I received them. Mm-hmm. There is something that I see that is not yet worrisome, because until you get to submit any personable or personal identifiable information, then you're not exposing yourself. What is fearsome is when you receive an email or an SMS asking you to divulge your name, your birthday, your address, and worse, they ask about your PIN or your password.
Right.
Then that exposes you. It allows the individual to take over your account, then be able to transfer or do the banking transactions that are supposed to be reserved for you.
But Wick, these cyber criminals have access to our personal numbers like you and I and our emails. What are banks doing now to further strengthen their IT systems from these cyber criminals trying to hack your database for our personal information?
We, or the financial, or the banks, have always prepared ourselves. We've put a lot of security to ensure that nobody gets to penetrate as much as possible our web. Unfortunately, we were able to share our email, our phone numbers, and probably this was part of the safety protocol during this pandemic. Whenever you get to have an appointment, either in a restaurant or in another place where information is required, you enter a building, they get to ask a lot of information. Big question, where are all of this information going to? Who is protecting the information? And I'll tell you, Rico, some buildings, the amount of information, if you would just like to enter, is going to ask you about the whole Juan de la Cruz personal identity.
Correct. And of course, when we enter buildings now, it's not only our information and applications, but in black and white sheets of paper. And these could be accessed by these cyber criminals in a very easy way. And why do you think, Vic, are we a cybercrime hotspot? What makes us vulnerable to cyber attacks?
What makes us vulnerable, Rico, is primarily because during the start of the pandemic, everyone were forced to fast-track their mobile banking familiarity. Without leaving your house, you're now able to order food, or do shopping, and have all of this delivered. And as we continue to support mobile banking transactions, which is the best customer experience, the bank robber right now is no longer someone that holds a gun, but someone who holds a laptop with Wi-Fi connectivity that allows themselves to be able to get this information and now pretend to be Juan de la Cruz.
Pretending to be Juan de la Cruz, Wick, and maybe even Wick Veloso or Rico Hizon. And according to a report, the country lost more than 1 billion pesos from bank fraud so far this year. And this is a huge concern, Wick, because cyber criminals are harming the public and stealing their hard-earned money.
Exactly. And that is why I'm appealing to all of those that are using the financial services of banks to be very curious, to be very suspicious. We don't normally ask out of nowhere Juan de la Cruz about his personal identifiable information out of nowhere. It can be a case where you're trying to access your account and all of a sudden you forgot the correct password and you were logged out, and then you get in touch with the bank. It's the other way around when the bank out of nowhere tries to get in touch with Rico Hizon and ask for a number of key information, and worse, demands that you do it now, otherwise your account might get closed or something similar. They try to force you to act quick, and the moment you receive this kind of queries, be very, very suspicious.
So how is the Bankers Association of the Philippines, Wick, raising awareness on cybersecurity and by urging the public to stay vigilant against these various types of cyber attacks?
Very good question, Rico. First, we in the respective member banks of the BAP communicator are customers. But more recently, we partnered with the Kapisanan ng Broadcaster ng Pilipinas to be able to allow us to reach your viewers and share with them how they can prevent to be victims of cybercrime. Second, we've also worked with our Bank Marketing Association of the Philippines to allow social media and have those individuals that has got a lot of followers help us disseminate the information. We're working with Congress. There's this House Bill 9615, the e-wallet regulation act, where phishing or the process where information about an individual is sourced digitally via email, via SMS, and then the ability to transfer someone's fund to a mule account. What is a mule account? A mule account is a fake account. They're able to open a fake account. They're able to transfer what they got from Juan de la Cruz, transfer to that mule account, and from that mule account, transfer somewhere else. So it will now be totally lost in that web of different transactions. And working with the Department of Justice is very important because the Department of Justice is the lead agency that coordinates with the Philippine National Police and National Bureau of Investigation to be able to allow us to pin down these criminals.
Thank you so much for this digital banking exchange. Bankers Association of the Philippines President and PNB CEO, Wick Veloso. And now here's a rundown of this week's top business stories. Due to the low interest rate environment, there are forecasts the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will hike borrowing costs next year. But Central Bank Chief Ben Jokno says this all depends on evolving data on the country's economic recovery. The national government's budget deficit widens to 1.2 trillion pesos as of end October, as spending continued to outpace revenues. And several business groups want the government to allow the private sector to access its supply of COVID-19 vaccines, which they can use as booster shots for employees and their families. And straight ahead on The Exchange, where your business is our business. If you have ever received a text spam, you might be curious about some of the attached links. We look at where those websites lead. And from tech scams to investment scams, we get advice from financial advisors on keeping safe from tricky lending schemes. This is CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Government agencies, telcos, banks, and e-commerce platforms are stepping up measures to address tech spams offering jobs. But what happens when you do click the link? Well, it turns out these scams are interactive. Targets are fooled into sending money in exchange for a commission.
Dito sa strategy nila, yung first money na bibigay mo, ibabalik nila sa'yo. Sabihan ka na, maglagay ka ng 200 pesos and automatically you will receive a commission of 60 pesos. So naglagay kami ng 200 pesos. True enough, naging 260. And we were allowed to withdraw the 260 pesos. Parang kinukuha mo na nila yung trust mo. Pag malaki na yung pera mo, sasabihin na nila na, ay, hindi ka pa pwedeng mag-withdraw kasi kailangan mo pang magdagdag ng 15,000 pesos.
Well, authorities trace these tech scams from crime syndicates overseas. A study by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reveals 1 in 100 Filipinos have been a victim of investment scams. 5 in 10 Filipinos also obtain loans from informal money lenders. So how can we avoid falling prey to these scams and risky lending schemes? Let's now have an exchange with financial advisors Randall Chongson and Salve Duplito. Thank you so much for joining us, Salve. Let's start off with you. We're into tech scams, now investment scams. For the knowledge of our viewers, what are some of these scrupulous investment scams out there?
Ayun nga, yung pinag-uusapan ngayon talaga and being investigated in by the government are all of these tech scams. Pero, Rico, this is nothing new, ha? Ito yung new version of the scams, email scams, text scams, call scams that people have been receiving for a long time. Ang pagkakaiba lang dito, grabe ang pinpoint ng mga tao ngayon when it comes to unemployment. And these scammers know this. That's why ito naman yung very compelling na offer ng mga tao. O wala kang trabaho, maupo ka lang dyan, magte-text-text ka lang, makikita ka na. And we really have to change the mentality of everybody that easy money can be risky.
And of course, Randall, it's nothing new. Pero a lot of our kababayans still fall prey to these scams. How would we know if it's an investment scam or a fraud?
Well, number one, it's always going to be too good to be true. I mean, easy money there's no such thing as easy money. You have to earn for it, you have to wait for it, you have to do your due diligence. Yan yung problema. We always think that money can be earned easily. They can't. So again, everybody will fall prey to these things because they just want money to come in, maybe out of desperation, pero it doesn't work that way. Investments, managing money, it's never an easy thing. You have to be patient and there's a little bit of wisdom that's needed there.
So, Salve, have we seen a rise in these investment scams because of a lot of our kababayans are jobless? And of course, we are faced with this health crisis and a lot of them are still not back to their regular jobs.
Sobrang dami, Rico. As in, from all different levels talaga. From techie scams like all of these links and all of those things. Plus, meron din yung mga nag-o-offer lang na kaibigan mo. Diba remember the Repa scam a couple of months back? We spoke to somebody who akala nila paluwagan lang yun and eventually talagang tinakbo milyon-milyon na pera ng mga tao doon sa probinsya na yun. There are also mga social media scams, yung mga nagbebenta. Napakasimple lang, bebentahan ka, hindi ka di-deliveran. Bakit dumadami? Kasi people are desperate, people are at home, people are using their phones more, and so they're present and mas madali silang mahook into all of these things.
Randall, 5 in 10 Filipinos also obtained loans from informal money lenders, and these loans have very high interest rates. How can they be helped?
Well, number one, it starts with financial education. You need to understand that you need to manage your money well, you need to save properly. Of course, you want to work harder for those things para malaman mo yan. But at the same time, I guess we have to find solutions. Kasi quick money rin eh. If kulang ako ng pera, I just borrow money, then I'll solve my problem. But you don't solve your problem, you compound your problem. So it's really very important now that to be a little bit more, siguro, maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial on our part, or diskarte sa tamang paraan. Loan is a shortcut to be able to solve your problems. But you're not solving your problems, you're compounding them. So that's, I guess there's no easy answers for that, no? With everything that's happening right now. Pero you really have to get out of that debt problem because it's not going to be good for you.
And Salve, during these uncertain times, no, many of our kababayans want to invest and to earn more money on the side. How should they invest wisely and smartly?
Make sure lang, paulit-ulit ko nga sinasabi, huwag i-invest yung kailangan pambili ng bigas kinabukasan. Diba? Dapat ayos na muna yung mga pang daily needs and then invest only money na hindi mo kailangan for your immediate na pangangailangan. And then second, aralin mo muna, friend. Diba? Hindi naman talaga, hindi totoo na yung pinagkakitaan ng ibang tao, pagkakakitaan mo rin. And back to all of these scams lang, masabi ko lang talaga, when you're victimized by one, parang COVID daw yun. Kasi pag nabiktima ka, pati yung mga kaibigan mo sa cellphone mo mabibiktima din. So be careful. Minsan akala mo investment, yung pala na-scam ka, na-scam pa yung iba.
That's true, no? Ang nangyayari ngayon, Randall, no, when it looks too good to be true, one person will share it with another person and with another person, just like fake news.
Yeah. Yeah, you know the sad part, Rico, no? We've seen this and very sad, no? In fact, si Salve, ano yan, partner ko yan sa scam, sa scam busting, no? But really, we've seen some people, no? It's not their first time to be scam. I was in Mindanao a few years back. Pangatlong beses na niya na scam. So parang in a way, there's a victim mentality, gusto mo bumawi, and then gusto mo rin mandamay kasi you know, sometimes they're gonna encourage you, o sige, recruit mo si kaibigan mo, kapatid mo, let them to come in, so you're gonna earn from that, and then eventually, you know, the whole community has been scammed. That's the sad part of scamming.
Salve, there are also some who want to invest in high reward investments, like cryptocurrencies, foreign exchange, commodities, etc. What is your advice to new investors who want to enter these type of investments?
Tama ka, Rico, sobrang to the moon. Diba, to the moon, lahat ng mga tao gustong pumasok sa play to earn, gustong bumili ng Bitcoin, ng Ethereum, at iba-iba pang coins. Yung iba nga, joke na, diba? Dogecoin, ganyan. Tapos meron mga non-fungible tokens. All of these new things appear to be new opportunities. Parang new frontier yan. I suggest that people who only have very little, hindi pa para sa inyo to. These are things that people can invest in safely kung marami kang pwedeng i-risk. Pero ang problema kasi sa atin, siguro 50% ng naglalaro ng Axie galing sa Pilipinas and from poor communities. So, okay lang naman yon kung gusto nyo talagang kumita and this is money that you don't need again for your tuition next month and you want to do this, do it, but please don't throw dump money at all of these things. Dapat pinag-aralan mo, alam mo yung risk mo, at you're there for the long term also. If you're just there to make a quick buck, you can easily burn yourself. So make sure that you understand where you're going.
Thank you so much for this financial literacy exchange, Randall Chongson and Salve Duplito. And up next on the exchange, where your business is our business, just how strong is your password? If it's as easy to type as 123456, it might be among the most common ones in the Philippines. And we take a look at how safe our data is under the convenient e-wallet with a representative from GCash. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. The central bank wants the Philippines to be a cash-lite society by 2023, where 50% of all transactions are done online. Let's now have an exchange with Rowie Zamora of GCash on securing our e-wallets and the future of digital payments. Rowie, thank you so much for joining us. I'll start off with the SMS job scams. They have been on the news headlines over the past week, and I have received many of them. And the National Privacy Commission has met up with the telcos, e-commerce platforms, and banks. Could there have been a breach or a leak of the numbers?
Thank you, Rico, for having us. From the side of GCash, definitely we can attest that there is no breach coming from our end. Unfortunately, there are other avenues where the fraudster, so to speak, could get access to personal information of our customers. Not just our customers, but as you had interviewed the guest before me, even customer information of other financial institutions. No? So unfortunately, that does exist, but security measures are in place, particularly for e-wallets like GCash to protect our data, our customers' data.
All right. Of course, this whole pandemic has accelerated the digitization of the Philippines, no? And many Filipinos have their hard-earned salaries and savings in digital wallets. Rowie, what security protections and assurances can you give your users that the money that they have in their accounts is safe?
Yeah, so, Rico, even before the sharp growth of e-wallet users during the pandemic, or at the start of the pandemic, we're very proud that in GCash, we've had our security measures in place, no, even before then. We are really supported by best-in-class and world-class security systems that protect not just our infrastructure and our software, but more importantly, the data of our customers, no, and their transactions. So these systems are actually powered by our international partners, who themselves are very used to doing the same for their, over 1 billion customers, no, in their respective platforms. So we are really supported by world-class security protection at GCash.
What do you do in case of a data breach, Rowie?
Well, thankfully, we have not experienced that, Rico, and we're hoping that, we're hoping that trend continues, not just for us, but for all of the e-wallets as well. We have protocols in place, of course, if and when that happens. We are protected not just by, like I said, the platforms we use, but we actually have a security operations center, a command center that is able to not just mobilize when a potential data breach happens. We actually have tools, risk and fraud detector tools, no, that are able to not just respond to something if and when it happens, but it can monitor the likelihood of these potential fraudulent activities. And we're able to prevent that, nip it in the bud, so to speak. No.
That's good news for all GCash users. How do you help your clients and users not to fall and not be gullible for these scams and frauds?
Yeah, so our security systems can be best in class, but you're right. It needs to be augmented by massive customer education campaigns, and we also take that very seriously in GCash. No, we've launched a couple of programs to really help inform our customers of the things to watch out for, right? Especially in this day and age where there's a lot of fraudulent activity going on. So the first program we have in place is what we call the Customer Protect program, which really protects users from unauthorized transactions. So there's a process in place where we proactively investigate these reports, and if it is truly proven to be unauthorized, the user is protected. That's one. The second is, obviously, we are working very closely with our regulators, including the PNP anti-cybercrime group, right, to very swiftly look into these reported cases. In terms of campaigns, we also have what we call the G-Check Muna campaign, which really reminds the users about what to look out for, the do's and don'ts. And if you will allow me, Rico, I'd like to use this chance to remind everyone watching that really the first reminder, the first and foremost reminder, is to never ever share your MPIN with anyone, no matter how they introduce themselves or no matter how they, present themselves as potentially part of a GCash team. We will never ask for anyone's MPIN.
Thank you so much for this e-wallet exchange, Rowie Zamora of GCash. So how do you keep your cyber accounts safe? Using a weak passcode can make your private information vulnerable to hackers. So if you see yours on the screen, you might want to think about making a switch. These are the top 10 most commonly used passwords in the country this year, according to NordPass, a password management company. On the list are the numbers counting up from 1 to 6. And phrases like, pogi ako, and just password, spelled out. But what's easy to remember might also be easy to decipher. The top 8 reportedly take less than a second to crack. And this is the exchange who makes sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle, because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust.